Hey everybody, I got an email asking me what are my thoughts of Affinity Photo compared to Photoshop? Is that a good substitute? So let's take a look at it. Are you ready for this? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. And if you're new to here, if you could please do me a favor. If you're interested in increasing your knowledge of photography and being a photo artist and sort of thinking out of the box, if you could please like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. That way when I upload a new video, you'll be notified on that. With that out of the way, let's get to my question that was asked to me, and that is, what are your thoughts of Affinity Photo compared to Photoshop? What are the pros and cons? So I dove into the program and I'll talk about the pros and cons. And what I need to emphasize to you is some of the cons that are for me may not be a con for you. So this will make more sense as we move forward with this. So let me open up Affinity Photo. And by the way, the version I'm using, let's start down here, is the newest version. This is 2023, and it's Affinity Photo version 2. So this may change, obviously, in the future, coming this year. Maybe they're going to have version 3. I don't know. I'm actually running the trial version of the program. You can see the price. It's on sale for like $41. That's a bargain. Normal price is $99. I understand this expires, I believe, by the end of January, and right now I'm using a trial version, so I'm just going to continue with the trial version right here and let this open up, and I'm going to cancel. It just says I have 26 days left, and I've been playing with this extensively, actually looking at training videos and stuff to try to get me up to speed on this. So right now I'm just going to close that out. Okay, with that said, the interface is pretty interesting. It's somewhat close to Photoshop, and I'm going to open up an image and share with you what some of my frustrations are a little bit, but it may not be a frustration for you. But let's talk about some of the pros. We don't need to see me here, so I'm just going to delete myself out of here. Number one, it's a fair price. I mean, if you don't want to pay a monthly fee and Affinity Photo meets your needs based on what you are doing, even at $100, I mean, I think that is a bargain. There's similar features in there that are non-destructive, just like in Photoshop. So if you're just interested in doing basic cropping, maybe cloning, some non-adjustment layers, you're going to add some contrast, color grading, that kind of stuff. Beautiful program for doing that. Absolutely beautiful for doing that. One of the things that I really appreciate that this program does is a lot of the shortcut techniques that I know to do in Photoshop, most of those will work. So I'll give you an example. If I double click on my workspace, it's just a fast way of getting the open dialog box rather than going to a drop down menu, selecting open and that kind of stuff. I'm going to choose this image right here and click on open. Now let's talk about the cons for me. And that is, since I do a lot of creative things in compositing, I'll do a lot of things like I'm going to capture a person not only off a plain background, but I can do it pretty well if it's even a busy background. But if I know I want to capture somebody, I'm always doing it with a plain background. And I need to do it as fast as I can and accurately as I can because I'm getting paid to do this and time is money. So let me talk about some of the cons. Number one, the power of selecting a subject to extract it out to move it into another background, as an example, is a little on the slow side for me compared to Photoshop. Photoshop has more control, more depth, and more speed to do that, at least right now. Maybe in the future, Affinity will get better at it. It's not bad, but it can't compare to Photoshop. So that's a con for me. The other thing is, if you're interested in actions that you have purchased, which I have not, but I heard a lot of people buy actions for Photoshop that do a certain routine for them. Well, that's not going to carry over at all to Affinity. So that's a con right there. The big thing for me as a con is plugins. A lot of the plugins that I have and use will not work and carry over into Affinity. There is a hack to bring in some, not all, but some of your plugins into the program, which I have tried. The problem is, I think I brought in like 4, and 2 out of the 4 looked like they were going to work, but they didn't. It just created a bunch of garbage and stuff. So that's a con for me, especially if those plugins are very, very important for me. And the last thing is it doesn't know what to do what's called a PSDT, the letter T like in Tom. It's like a template format that most people don't know exists in Photoshop. And I'll talk about that file format in the future. It doesn't work with that at all in Affinity. It doesn't know what it's supposed to do with it. So those are some of the cons for me. So with that said, would I buy this program for me to use instead of Photoshop? The answer is no, absolutely not. Now, let's change the situation here a little bit. Let's say I don't do compositing. I don't have major plugins that I use in Photoshop. I just want to do some basic things, clean up, enhance my image, crop, all these other things. Yes, I think this is a good program to get. I really, really do. So I'm telling you that if you're not doing what I'm doing, this program may meet your needs. Definitely go to the website, download the trial version for free. You get it for 30 days and beat it to death and play with it to see if it meets your needs. If it does, I think it's a viable choice instead of Photoshop. As long as it meets your needs. Why not, right? Why not? So with that said, let me show you what I wish will improve, and probably will in the future, and that is I need the selector. And I've been looking at different tutorials with Affinity and playing different scenarios, and the fastest, easiest way I know is grab what's called the selection tool right here, and with a painting motion, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger by hitting my right square bracket, which is identical to Photoshop, which is really cool. And I'm just going to click and drag the paint over her as a subject matter. So we're just going to grab as much as we can. And as I do this, I'm going to be missing certain areas. So what I need to do is I might make that brush a little bit smaller and just come in here and work around the image to make my selection right in there. And let's see, the hat looks pretty good. Ooh, I got to get this area here, so I got to make this a bit smaller to grab the feathers right there and just sort of play with that to get what I need. And then once I think I got what I need, by the way, I need, let's see, under her arm right here. So I'm going to hold the Alt key down, Option on a Mac, click and drag, and that is taking away from my selection in there. And I may have to, again, play with that a little bit to make it a better selection. And then I hit what's called the Refine button right here. And with that selected, it opens up this interface. And basically what I could do is choose Matte. And what Matte does is if I go around the edge, I'm telling it, okay, this is the hat and this is the background. This is part of the hair. Do your calculation and fix that. So it did a pretty good job there. Let me come up here and do the same thing. This is the background. And let it do its job. Not bad. And we're missing a little bit here, so let's see if that'll fix that. And if not, I grab foreground button right here. And I just click and drag, and with a painting motion, just paint across there. So the point is, I got to go around and do some touch up here and there. And eventually I will get it. And it doesn't do that bad of a job. And then I come over here to select and say I need a new layer with a mask, and then I click on apply, let it do its thing, and there we go. So I'm going to add a new layer. So I'm going to come down to layer drop down menu here, new fill layer, and I'm going to fill that with not white, that's your default, we're going to do black right there. And I'm going to push this below. So layers very similar like in Photoshop. So you can see if I zoom in on this, what it did for me. And again, not too bad with that, but a little bit of work to do with the hair and stuff like that. But it's not bad at all. It's not bad at all. But the thing is that Photoshop works a little bit quicker for me. I can get deeper into more complex things that I was having a lot of trouble with this program. So I'm going to close out of this. And again, if you're not doing compositing or you're cutting a person out in that, this program may be perfect for you. So to do a little comparison, if I open up Photoshop, and let me grab the same image that I was just working on. And Photoshop has a feature here on our toolbar on the flyout menu called Object Selection Tool. And I make sure that hard edges is deselected because I don't want hard edges on this. And I just choose Select Subject. And when I do that, I just let it do its thing. There's no grabbing a brush and painting. Look what it did. I mean, look at under the arm here. I mean, it's just perfect. Now I'm going to add the Shift key because it didn't grab the feathers there. It didn't know that. So if I hold the Shift key down and do a click and drag motion like this to say include that, so that's adding to my selection, that should select that for me. Okay, with that done, right there, let me get back to my selection tool. I'm going to go to Select and Mask. And then in this area, I can go in and refine things. So an example, if I take a look at the feathers here, we have a refine brush in the upper left-hand corner that I can choose, and I'll make that a little bit smaller. And basically, I'm just teaching it what to do, what is part of the background versus the feathers, and just fine-tune this. And again, you're just trying to do enough to sell the fake. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but there you go. If I scoot down here, I notice I missed this area. So if I click and drag in here and let it work a little bit, there we go. And I'm going to pull back on this. And again, I still might do a little bit of fine tuning on it, but it just does a great job. There's a radius. We have a lot more control in this panel. And again, this is not a training class on cutting this out. It's just to quickly show you the difference between, say, using Photoshop versus Affinity Photo. And I'll just choose, hey, create a layer with a mask, click on OK, and there it is. So if I come over here and say, well, let's add a black background, a new layer there, filled it with black. And I'm going to move this down so we can just see the before and after of this. And I just find that in Photoshop, I can get quicker and more accurate results with this program than Affinity. But again, in the future, Affinity, again, may improve. But again, so will Photoshop. Adobe will always, and this is what I love about Affinity and other programs and Adobe Photoshop, is that Adobe has competition, which is good. And it makes Adobe push itself as other people are pushing and trying to catch up to Adobe. So they're trying to stay one step ahead of everybody else right there. And by the way, just to show you this really quick, I don't have time to do the composite, but if I had a background like this, and I'm going to go over here to the image, and I'm just going to grab what I just did for you guys over here, click and drag her over here. And I'm going to do Control-T to grab the free transform tool. And I'm just going to quickly resize this real fast and position it maybe about right there, enter the keyboard. And you can see what a nice job this did. Let me pull back on this. Other than color grading and do other things that are really important in creating a composite, which again, this is not a class on compositing. But I'll show you what I did. Let me close out of this. I'm not going to save that. And also here, I'm not going to save it. And this I just banged out really fast. I think it took me maybe about 10, 15 minutes to do this with color grading and some other techniques to do this quick, fast composite. I can't do that fast in Affinity. But again, time is money for me. If I'm doing this for client work, this is a big deal. Time is money. But let's say you're doing this for fun. It's just, you're not making money. It's a hobby. Well, if it takes me longer, so what? Use Affinity. I mean, that's my point on that. But if you're in business like I am, and you can't afford 10 bucks a month for Photoshop, you're in big trouble if you have a business and you can't afford $10 as overhead, and it's a write-off on top of that. So anyhow, so hopefully that helps you quickly, because there are some videos that you can find on Affinity. I say, hey, go for it and try it. See if it meets your needs. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, so just a quick recap. I think it's a great program. Just the cons, I just had to write it down, and that is it's faster and easier for me to do things in Photoshop when it comes to selections when I'm creating composites. The other thing is plugins. If you have a series of plugins, you're going to find out that a lot of these plugins are just not going to work, and you may not be happy with that. But if you don't have any plugins, why not? And then actions, if you do have actions, which I don't, but I know a lot of people do, they purchase pre-made actions for Photoshop. They're not going to transfer over and not work at all. And then I'm going to explain what a PSDT file is and how important that is to me in an upcoming video in the future. But Affinity does not know what to do with that file format as of now. Maybe it will in the future. Okay, with that said, hopefully you learned something. Hopefully this helps a little bit. And I encourage you to, again, go to the website. I'll put the link in the show notes for you to download the trial version. Again, I have no affiliation with Affinity on this. Try it out, see if you like it, if you love it, and if it fits your needs. I say it's a bargain. Buy it right there. Okay, so with that out of the way, hey, if you guys got any questions, comments, I would prefer that you actually email it to me rather than making comments on YouTube. I get flooded with a bunch of stuff. I would prefer that, again, you email me. And again, my email is stephenphotoartist@gmail.com. Okay, with that out of the way, again, if you can do me a favor, if you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, you'll get notified on that. So with that out of the way, let's get out and do some creative things. See you till next time.